If I had to survive anywhere living off the land, a Caribbean island might be it. So today you're gonna see me foraging some Caribbean almond. You're gonna see me climbing a coconut tree, injuring myself trying to forage some tamarind. I'm gonna get some sea snails that you'll see me eat at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. And also you're gonna see me snack on some purslane. Today's video is all about foraging the coasts of a Caribbean island. Let me know if you want another video doing an inland foraging of a Caribbean island. Also, don't forget to subscribe, hit that little notification bell so that you get notified when there's new content, and like this video, it really helps it spread. So I'm standing under a tamarind tree here, and this is right along the coast. And you can see, if you look up here, that there's a ton of tamarinds in the tree right there. And one has fallen down right here. So I'm gonna grab this one on the ground and you can see exactly what the actual tamarind looks like. Now, I don't know. Okay, so this one's a little bit past prime. You can kind of break it open and see what it looks like on the inside. Each of these pods has some gook that you can kind of eat. Actually, it's not terrible. It's not like, it's really sour, and there's not much on it. There's these seeds in the center that I'm not eating. It's interesting. I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna try to get one from the tree right here and see if it tastes any better or different. Ow, got it. Stabbed myself in the process. That's the dangers of foraging. All right, breaking this one open. Looks a little bit like it has a little bit more flesh on there. It's just basically the same. It's really sour, but has a little bit of sweetness to it. It's almost like candy, and I know there are some places you'll find these in a lot of Asian markets that are candied. That's really good. That's the seed in the center. So you can see the seed in the center that I just cleaned off. Just in case you're not sure which tree we're looking at here, you can see the trunk over here. And ignore this. Zoom in on these leaves over here. That's the pattern that they have. So what we have here is a Caribbean almond tree, and these things will grow along the coast. You can see the almonds right here, not actual almonds. It's a different species, but they taste and look a lot like almonds. So I'm gonna grab one off the tree. I'm gonna grab a couple off the ground, and I'll bring them on my way, and we'll open them later and see what they look like. So I got these 3 Caribbean almonds that I picked up earlier off the ground in 3 different stages. This one was off the tree, this one was more fleshy off the ground, and this one's older. I'm gonna crack them open right now and see what they look like. Let's start with the oldest one. I've done this in the past, and it's a little bit tough to open sometimes, but maybe with a trusty machete, it'll be nice and easy. So you can see there's the fleshy part out there. There we go. We got a little bit of that almond in there. So these aren't actually almonds, but they look and taste just like almonds. So there's not much. Well, you can kind of get to it there. All right, here we go. So, I mean, this is just a chunk of it because I did kind of a hack job getting that out. But yeah, tastes almost exactly like an almond. All right, so this is the next stage. This one, some people say that you can eat the flesh of these too, but to me, it's not good. It's like bitter and a little sour. But I guess there's also some people that talk about this being like a medicine as well. So I don't know about any of that. All I know is that you can eat the inside here, which I have done before. You know, you can see it's kind of almond shaped, and it's a lot like the coconut, where if you peel back the layers, you do get down to that typical almond shell. You see like little bits of the nutty flesh there, the white part right in the center. This one tastes good too. Doesn't taste that different than the, maybe this is the time to comment and tell me how I'm actually supposed to open these, because I get the job done, but not pretty. All right, now let's do the one that was fresh off the tree. This might be too young, but we'll find out. Actually, I still got the almonds in there. Not a ton of payoff for the work, but I guess when you're foraging, you just got to make sure you don't use more calories than you get from it. Which, this is another high protein one. Ah, there we go. There we go. So I've opened this one up here, and then this is the nut right here in the center that you're trying to get to. And you can tell this one's less mature than the other two. It's not quite as developed and meaty, but still tastes pretty good. So I guess the conclusion on this is if you have a machete, super easy to get these open. And you can, you know, get the fragments of nuts. Tastes good. Tastes a lot like an almond. So obviously on a Caribbean island, coconuts are going to be a lifesaver. It's going to be the main thing that is going to give you fresh drinking water wherever you are, and the older ones are going to give you some meat. So that's something you got to think about, how old they are. Basically, coconut trees can produce one crop every month, and about 6 months in, they start having some good meat on them. A little bit earlier than that, they can have some good juice in them, but they're not going to have as much meat. So I'm just trying to scope out which of these trees are best. And then the only other tools I need is, obviously I have my machete to open them up, and I have this strap, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to tie up this strap in order to tie it onto my feet to better climb the tree, because then that's the real skill that you need to know. I'm scoping out a couple trees up here. These ones are looking pretty good. They're not that high off the ground. Obviously I don't want to fall from too far of a distance. That would be really bad, especially in a survival scenario. I'm going to take my strap here, and I need to tie this off so that I can use this. I can put my feet on either side of it and then use it to grip the tree with. My feet, bare feet are going to be better for this. I almost forgot to do my coconut stretches. I got to stretch out before I do this because it's a muscle that I don't really use that often. I've definitely jumped onto this coconut tree before and hasn't felt great. So I'm gonna do a little bit of that coconut stretching. All right, I've made that a little bit shorter here. Hopefully that's better. Now, if you watch some guys do this, they're strong enough to just kind of hang out. I gotta really hold on to the tree when I do this. But you basically can just kind of inch your way up. All right, I got these two great specimens here. For these, I'm basically gonna just twist until they come off. There's one. Woo! There's another. There's another one on this other side I'm gonna grab because while I'm up here, I've already put all the effort, used all the calories in coming up here, so I should get everything that I'm able to reach. This is a beach that I don't see too many people at. You see all these trees out here have so many coconuts on them. And you can see right behind me, that one's got tons on them. Maybe I'll climb that one next, I don't know. But there's another. And then I'm just gonna try to shimmy back down the tree, same way I came up. I'm kind of losing grip of the thing I got there, but as long as I'm slow at it, I should be fine. I have to say, this is not a textbook coconut tree climb. You can tell I'm an amateur. But at least having a little bit of the idea how to do it could definitely be great in a situation where you need it, because then you're not learning on the fly. All right, so I have the 3 coconuts that I grabbed here, and then this is the one that was already on the ground. You may notice that I have a rope to climb the trees with and a machete here. This isn't really a survive getting washed on the shore of a Caribbean island video. This is more of a have some skills to forage in case you need them. I'm kind of assuming that, you know, you can kind of get yourself some tools and then use what you have available. I mean, I just found this driftwood thing that washed up here on this very secluded beach. Not a lot of people around here. And so I'm going to be using that as a platform here. When you see coconuts in the store, obviously they're brown. and that's the inside of this. You got to get the green fleshy part off first. So what I'm gonna do is first chop off this side so that once I get it open, I can just kind of have something to stand it on. I guess I'd say it's worth practicing this sort of thing as well, because you want to not cut your thumb off, because once again, in a situation where you're having to eat coconuts to survive, you're probably not going to have great access to medical care. So, and then I'm going to come around this side and I'm going to try to shave it off a little bit, get a little bit closer to that nut on the inside. Now, if you're composting or anything, this is going to be great for compost. If you have a composting toilet, it's a great material to put in there. And actually, if you want to get really crafty, you could even like weave this into ropes. I'm getting into the top right here, so you can actually see the eyes there. There's the 3. And if I had remembered my coconut tools, I could just poke the nice coconut tool through there and get to the water, but I forgot. So I'm gonna have to use my machete. But I wanna get this stuff off first, just so that it's easier to get to, and so that when I finally take that first drink of it, it's not getting all this hair in my mouth. Now you can see I got to this fleshy part here, and I think, let's see how this tastes. It's still kind of hard to come out. Shit. Ah, there we go. All right, a bit more open there. Still got a little bit of hair in my mouth because I rushed, because I was about to die of thirst out here, but that's so good. I've actually poured this into a glass before, and you get probably about 12 ounces of coconut juice per coconut. So it's, yeah, I mean, it obviously depends on the size of the coconut. Coconut's different, but this one, I'll show you in a minute when I open it up, but it looks like it has some decent flesh on it as well. That's really sweet too. It has a lot of electrolytes. You can imagine that if this is the first thing you got when you really need it, you need some water, it's gonna be very nutritious, really gonna be reviving to you. So to clean it off, what I'm gonna do is make all of these little cuts in it right down to the center, right in a row. And then it makes it a lot easier to peel. Once you get a bunch of these, you can kind of get a wedge out like that, and it becomes much easier to clean off. And then I'm gonna do that all the way around the outside. So, got it almost all cleaned off here. And you can see it's starting to look a little bit more like that nut you see in the store. It turns brown, and actually it's already starting to turn brown. It oxidizes. I'm not gonna care too much about getting all these fibers off. I just needed it to get down to this point so that I could chop it in half. I'm gonna chop it this way. Yeah, you can see that's got some nice flesh in there. So again, there's special coconut tools that make this even easier, but oops. This is actually very thick coconut meat, good for eating. I'm actually surprised the juice tasted that good. Usually it gets not quite bitter, but it has like a little bit of a weird taste when it's this old. And those really young coconuts have the most pleasant, sweet juice, but not as much flesh. The flesh is a little bit more slimy and small. Of course, this is what you're probably used to if you've ever gotten one from the grocery store, because this is the stage that you get them at. But there's a lot, obviously there's a lot of protein in this and fat. It's seriously pretty filling, and I've had barely any of it. It's kind of rare. A lot of things you forage, like we'll take a look at the sea purslane, which is a vegetable and it's full of nutrients, but it's not going to give you a lot of calories or really fill you up. And coconut, I would say, is different. That's one of the reasons why, if I had to be anywhere trying to forage for my food, the Caribbean is one of those places that I wouldn't mind, because coconuts grow year round. Everywhere else, you know, New England, I've been foraging for about 12 years. 4 of them was in New England. 4 was in Florida, and then I've been in the Caribbean, in Puerto Rico for the last 4 years. And To have that year-round food in a climate that's really never that bad, you're not going to freeze to death. Pretty good thing. So something that is very nutrient dense is sea purslane. And purslane, there's many different varieties of it. You actually will even find some in the grocery store. But the sea purslane variety, you can see right here, and it forms this entire mat. And there's just tons of it. So you're never going to run out of good sea purslane as a vegetable. You can eat the leaves and I believe stems too. I've never really cooked this one up and eaten it as a vegetable. You can do that, but I've only like nibbled on it. An interesting thing about sea purslane is it's really salty and it's kind of an interesting snack. Actually, it's almost like too salty, but very crisp. Like I said, loaded with nutrients. There is oxalic acid in there, so it's one of those things you got to be careful about if you have gout or something like that. You don't want that to build up in your system, but definitely in an emergency, it's going to be great. Well, you know, mainly for nutrition, because it's not going to give you a ton of calories. It's more going to give you the nutrition that you need in an emergency. But between everything that we're foraging today, if you get a little bit of meat with the periwinkles and you got your nutrients with this, you can survive for quite some time. That's really salty. It's interesting. It's way different than the typical purslane, which I can also show you grows everywhere. And I think what you can also do is kind of get the stems and cook the stems up like asparagus. Just a note on being careful about what you eat and what you forage. You can't just grab it. You always got to identify it correctly. Maybe even use an app or something, or get really familiar with it. Because you can see right next to this is another plant. This is a bush, and so it looks very different. But if you just look at the leaves, it's like a fleshy, thick leaf. And just looking at the leaves side by side, you might not know the difference. And I have no idea what that plant is. You really should not be eating things that you don't, that you can't positively identify. So just always make sure that you know what you're eating. Don't eat something and then ask what it is. So I'm out here looking for some periwinkles. It's like a type of sea snail. So right now is low tide, which is obviously a great time to find these sorts of things because you have these rocks and these tidal pools. And if you think of just a typical beach with sand, it's going to be a lot harder to find these. They really like to attach themselves to rocks and in these tidal pools where the water will, you know, sometimes cover them and sometimes not. So low tide right now, great time to find these. You know, you're not going to find them too far from the beach. And you can see that they're all over the place. These guys are all also types of periwinkles that you can eat. But I don't want to take the small ones because I don't think there's going to be enough meat in there to really be worth it. So like that, oop, that's a slug. Yeah, he doesn't have a shell on. Okay. I don't know anything about the slugs. So he looks kind of similar, but yeah, these ones all have the shells. Now, I was looking for these slightly smaller ones, but I just found this one here. It blends in with the rock really well, but when you pluck it up, it's actually pretty big. I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to try to find a few others that are close to this size. Now, I'm calling these periwinkles, but they're all different sorts of sea snails. This type, I've read, are mostly all edible. There are a few types that you want to avoid, conical-shaped ones. I've never actually eaten these before. I've known about them for a long time, so today is this guy's unlucky day and my lucky day because I think I'm going to finally take a few home and try them. Down here, I found another nice big one. He really curled up in the shell. So the shell itself is big, but I don't know how much meat there's going to be in there. So I was walking around out here in these tidal pools. It looks like I hit the mother lode right here. You can see a bunch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, even more down there. All over the place. Just in this pool right here. So I think I'm gonna get a variety of sizes to see what maybe tastes best. And then we're gonna take them home and try those. So I've been getting some this size. I didn't know I was going to get any like that. I was going to be happy coming out here and grabbing these ones, this size. And so I'm not going to collect too many since I haven't eaten them before. I don't want to end up not liking them and then wasting them. but I do want to get a little bit of a variety of the different sizes and the different types. And I like seafood, so I don't think it'll be a waste. All right, so we're back here in the kitchen. I've got my sea snails, and you can see they're starting to crawl a little bit on the inside of the bag there. That's what they look like while they're crawling around towards the other side. There's the big ones. So I found out that these big ones are called whelks. So I was going out there expecting to only really get periwinkles like this, but what I ended up finding was whelks like this and like this. And there were, oh, one's attached himself to the other one. There were some bigger whelks out there. I'm glad I didn't get them because what I found out when I came back and did a little bit more research was that the whelks tend to taste better when they're a little bit smaller. I'm gonna rinse these all off and then I'm going to put them into boiling water, already boiling, so that hopefully they have a nice quick death. I don't like to see anything needlessly suffer, but this is my food. I am gonna eat it, so can't feel that bad. So in the meantime, while I wait for that water to boil, this is the coconut tool that I didn't have with me earlier, but it makes it a lot easier if you find one of these eyes. It's always a little bit easier to get into. So that's a little bit better. I'll just sit here milking it. Just kidding, this is coconut water, not coconut milk. It's actually kind of surprising, like you wouldn't even think that much would fit in there. Okay, so this was actually a relatively small amount, because usually you'll get a little bit more of that. It was, yeah, 5.6 ounces of coconut water. Delicious. Meanwhile, our water's boiling. We'll say goodbye to our friends. And we're gonna leave them in there for, about 7 minutes. There's some things that say 7 to 10 minutes, and I'm gonna lightly saute these afterwards. I want a little butter and garlic in there. If you overcook them, then they might be a little bit chewier. All right, so I've never done this before, so let's try to start with an easy one first. I've seen that you gotta flick off this thing there, pull it out with a toothpick like that. That's a good size, and yeah, that whole thing you can eat. All right, now let's take a look at one of these big ones. Gotta go in there, peel off that foot, I think they call it sometimes. And looks like it might have come apart a little bit. I don't know if I got the whole thing or not, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to get more. Ah, there we go. All right, let's see how one of these little ones looks like. All right, that's actually still a decent amount of meat for the size of these things. And this isn't actually that hard to get them out. You never have too much garlic. It'll just make it taste that much better. Whenever somebody asks, ooh, that smells good, what are you cooking? It's always garlic and butter. I foraged myself a little bit of wine from the cabinets. I know, red wine with seafood, not something you want to typically do. I don't care. Now, I already boiled these, so they really don't need to cook. I'm just giving them a little bit of this buttery, garlicky flavor. I'm gonna throw a little bit of lemon juice on there. And now, it is the moment of truth. I'm gonna get myself a nice big one and see how it tastes. That's good. It tastes a lot like octopus to me. That's my first reaction. It's a little chewy, but not that bad. It has a little bit of that briny taste. If you like clams, you'll probably like this. It is a little gritty. Let me find a smaller one here. So then this is going to be one of the smaller like periwinkles. That's good too. I don't know if I like one better than the other. I think that if you like octopus, squid, clams, that sort of thing, that you would like this. This is perfectly, if I needed some meat in my diet, and for whatever reason it was hard to come by, I would be very excited to get some of this in my diet. It's not a tiny amount either. Like, that's a nice little chunk of meat. I probably have a few ounces of protein in here. I'm gonna say that's a win. So the sea snails were great, but they weren't very filling. So I came back to the beach to get myself a Pastelillo and a Medalla, because if you find yourself coastal foraging and you just can't get anything, you can usually find a place like this right by the beach where they'll hook you up with something good. So cheers. Thanks for watching. And if you're interested in this topic of self-sufficiency and how to be prepared just in case you ever need to be, check out this video that I got for you of a tour of my dad's completely off-grid cabin in Florida, which I helped him build, totally off-grid. Check it out, and I hope that you'll come back and see me again soon.